Director of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump. Bruce, always good to see you. Bombshell interview last night. A lot of folks talking about it, including you. You tweeted this. I'll show the viewers now. Plausible deniability, the new saying for the Biden crime family. And again, you set that out, and that is referencing what Tony Bobulinski said the Biden family's plan was for answering questions about these allegations. So my question is this. What do you think is going to happen? Does the Trump campaign push harder to get Joe Biden to give really cohesive answers to these questions? We are 6 days out from the election, and there are some questions that need answers.
Well, thanks for having me, Sean. Well, here's the big deal. Yeah, the campaign's going to push out, but most of all, the American people are starting to ask, and that's essentially who we want to get the message to. They are the ones going to the polls. They are the ones that we make the decision on who is the president. And this is really a big bombshell, Sean. And I'm going to tell you, what people fail to realize is the president gave a great promise and kept his word about exposing pay to play. Now, this is one of probably thousands of many others elected officials who have taken money and traded their seats. You know, they're not the only one, Sean. This is an awakening. I said this back in 2015 on a national news broadcast, and they laughed me off the stage. But this has come to fruition, and this has to be done in order to regain our great republic. The Biden family have been doing this for decades and decades, and it's really sad. And most of all, you're gonna, if that were my family, I would come out and scream to the highest mountain and just totally push this back. It is crickets over there. Obama was here in Georgia yesterday. They didn't say a word. And they're going to have to come out and answer to this. But most of all, Sean, they got to answer to the American people on this.
Well, Bobulinski was asked what the reaction was from the Biden family representative on this when he told them that he was going on the record with this whole thing. This is what happened when that happened.
Rob's position was, if you go on record with all these facts, you'll bury all of us.
If he doesn't come out on record, I am providing the facts.
Tony, you're just going to bury all of us, man.
So that was from Rob Walker there, another one of the key players in this story. You're going to bury all of us, man. That's what he says, allegedly there on the tape that you heard. Your thoughts on that? Does this bury the Biden campaign? What does it do to the Biden campaign?
Well, it's like the president said all along. It proves the fact that they are shady and they're crooked. And there are many more going to come out, Sean. Stay tuned. I'm saying it right here on your show. There are many more coming out. They're shaking the cage and they're running. But once again, it's very sad. Listen, they're trying to discredit a former officer who has decades of serving this great nation. His dad, his granddad, the whole family. This guy is not a political operative. Let's remember this. This guy is just a business guy that served out of the military. He's not involved in these political consulting firms and all this kind of stuff. This guy is a decorated veteran who, when he goes home to the Lord, he'll lay under the flag like my dad and granddad and uncle and everyone else. So we're talking about let's match the credibility here. And you notice it's cricket, cricket, cricket on that side of the aisle. And right, the plausible deniability is just absolutely business as usual.
Yeah, talk to me about Bobulinski last night, because when I watched this interview, you can see it looks like honesty coming from him. He's just speaking out. He doesn't even want to be there. He goes on to talk about, and as you pointed out, he's a former naval officer. He held top clearance. Him speaking out about this, you have to wonder, because it's not just he said, she said. He's got emails. He's got text messages. Why isn't the media covering this?
Because we know what's going on. The president is not beholding, and he's challenged. Listen, we have never seen a candidate or a president of the United States challenge and call out the media in our lifetime, in the history of the United States. Good or bad, wrong, he will call you out. They despise that. They do not want, and you got to remember now, the pay to play is a big web of all different facets of what's been going on in our country. And this stuff is being exposed. This is real. There are many more coming. They're scrambling. Listen, most of all, too, Sean, if you notice now, Bobulinski's friends, go talk to them and check his credibility. And they'll tell you this guy's stand up. So the Bidens are running rampant. They know that this man has strong credibility. They're racing as fast as they can to get to the finish line, so that nobody will cover this. But thank God, great stations like Newsmax we're having this conversation, and hopefully this will get out even more to expose this. And I would want this exposed no matter who you are, Republican or Democrat. This is a disservice, and it compromises our great republic on national security issues and everything else.
Absolutely. I want to get your thoughts on one other thing here. It's a completely different topic, but something that's happening 6 days before the election. Looting and rioting that we're seeing, this one now in a major American city in Philly after police shot a black man, 27 years old, who was charging at them with a knife. Well, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf yesterday called them, you would guess it, peaceful protests. Watch.
And my staff have been in constant communication since last night with the folks in Philadelphia, and the hope is that that doesn't escalate into anything more than the peaceful protests that I think this kind of situation brings out.
The first night that we've seen the looting, the rioting, police were injured. More than 30 officers were injured. Last night, several stores looted again and again. Not a peaceful protest. Again, as we just pointed out, the facts there. What happens with this? How are we seeing justice by all these stores, these businesses being looted?
Sean, I'm going to tell you, and I feel bad about what happened with the person who got shot and the officers, the community for that matter. Listen, this is exactly what I've been saying, the president's been saying from day one. Most of these cities that have been for decades and decades under Democrat liberal policy rule, if you might say, governance, whatever you want to call it, and set up a lot of the minority communities for failure. And these are results of what's going on in these particular communities on what these policies and what has given the black community, the Hispanic community, a lot of the minority communities. This is the awakening. Now, the only thing with this being said is that the fact that the local control, where there's a lot of debates on different types of weaponry that you could apprehend someone, different types of tasers and all that. Those are local discussions. The president and Tim Scott tried to come out with a national comprehensive use of force, and you saw the Democrats pushed it back. Yeah. Now, naturally that's a federal level. I served on the police board for 4 years. This is kind of like my wheelhouse. And there's we put people on the moon, Sean. There are ways that we can get better in terms of our technology. But listen, you got to remember, when police are trained and when they do their firing, to get certified, they're taught to shoot center mask. They're taught to shoot like right around here. So, the discussions on the training in terms of use of force and how a deadly force, local, city, county, states have to be discussed in terms of how you want to change that or how you want to improve it or what have you. But at the end of the day, most of these cities, quote, these unrests are happening in liberal Democrat cities, predominantly.
But Bruce, let me just jump in really quick before we go, because you talk about the legislation that needs to change at the state level, and I agree with you on that. But the governor, why is the governor going on camera saying, well, I hope these are just the peaceful protests? He's not condemning what's happening. These are 2 nights. They expect more tonight. The National Guard is there. They're not there for a peaceful protest. Why isn't he coming out condemning this?
Because, Sean, just like we said earlier in the segment, and trust me, I guarantee you, if you go pull his campaign coffer from the time he started running for office, check every line item under the SEC and then the state where he's at. Look at his ethics sheet. It'll tell you where he disclosure in terms of all who's giving him money. And then those are the people who are controlling this person. Just like many others that get up there and pretend like this is going on. Follow the money. We've had a conversation on your show about Soros putting money in district attorneys across the country. Sure. Why in the world would you be funding district attorneys? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard this right here. Go pull up the SEC on every single candidate that you're involved with, that you're in your local community, state and federal, and question, who is this on this line item that's giving you money? Who is this PAC that's giving you money? Who is this group? You will get your answer on who is controlling these weak politicians who are allowing these great cities to get destroyed because of these pay-to-play people. This is where this is coming from. This is why he won't call it out, because he is owned and controlled, Sean. Yep. That's the bottom line with this.
I appreciate your time, Bruce. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Bruce LeVell, Executive Director of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump. Good to see you, Bruce. Thank you.